Chapter 34. After a moment of hesitation, I began to read. It seems the diary had been started some time in the year prior to when we first met, October 6th. Great weekend with Colin at Trout Beck. Never knew trout fishing could be so much fun. Colin caught a big one whilst I seemed to pull out frog after frog. There must have been something dodgy about my bait. Did some horse riding through the trails in the pine tree forests? ... For entries of a similar, more entries of similar nature followed. Dewey never seemed to be short of money, and the two of them gallivanted all over the place. But another entry caught my eye. December 3rd. Spent the weekend at home with Colin, who decided not to go anywhere. No man has ever made me feel so good about myself. He's trying to persuade me to return to Canada with him. I'm very tempted. Then there seemed to be a gap of months. March 10. Where to begin? How to begin? So much has happened. All of it bad, bad, bad. My life feels hollow and no one to turn to or talk to except you, little black book. But I've learned that even talking to myself provides some comfort. The sound of the door breaking and the booted footsteps still wakes me at night. I can hear the sound of his screams as he was dragged from bed and bundled into a van. There was no doubt in my mind that it was father who sent them. What business did they have when his visa still had 2 months left on it? And then his deportation for visa irregularities, which were never fully explained. He knew and I knew what it was all about. The terrible thing that I can never explain to him is that my father was behind it all. I don't know who it was that tipped him off, one of his Zanu cronies perhaps, but there are plenty of them at the Great Zimbabwe Hotel when we were there last. Maybe Kasuvandu saw us in the bar late one night, our arms around each other. The irony of it, he was there with a fleshy young woman who was clearly not his wife after all. But that my break from my family should come this way, and on top of Colin's peremptory departure, I think he knew my family was behind it. Will he ever trust me again? March 22nd. I've made a huge effort to pull myself together again. At least I know I can earn my living as a hairdresser if anyone will take me. April 1st. Moved in with a colleague. Couldn't afford to pay rent at the house in Avondale anymore since allowance got cut off. I don't even think that she likes me. Didn't even know being broke could be such a drag. My kingdom for a swimming pool. May 23rd. Missing my family so much. Patrick getting married next month. I have lost everything. Need to make peace with Vimbai. Don't think she liked the fact that I got promoted over her. Her work is superb, but she needs to do her styling from the soul. She's too mechanical. She thinks making her clients feel like white women is the key, but what she actually needs to do is make them feel like women. Thinking of telling her, but don't want to mess with the landlady. Hope she forgives me, but I need the extra cash from the job just to pay her rent. Due again next week. June 5th. Patrick is getting married tomorrow. Haven't been sleeping as much as I should. Lay awake in bed all night reading Oscar Wilde's Dorian Gray. Flowery prose might just put me to sleep. Doesn't work. Vimbai and I getting along now, but how will things go with the family? Praying to John Bradburn. June 29th. Can't believe how well things are going. Family utterly adores Vimbai. She's bigger than Michael Jackson. Allowance has been restored. Still keeping the job because I love it, but it feels so good not to have to look at the price tags when I go shopping. Need to tell Vimbai everything. Is it too soon? Seems like a really nice person. Don't know who to trust anymore. It's way too risky. Need a bit more time. Get to know each other better. Can't afford to mess this up. Shouldn't have to live my life in the shadows like this. August 2nd. Complete disaster. Now Chiwaniso is involved in all this. Have strong feelings for both mother and daughter. Want them to be in my life. Have to say something before things get too complicated. What am I saying? Things are already too complicated. Think. They have a right to know the truth. Must act soon. September 13th. Met strong, dashing man who literally saved my life. The things I read made me drop the diary as if it were scalding my hand, and I covered my mouth as if in prayer. Chapter 35. Is everything all right, Mummy? I heard you crying. Chiwaniso was standing at my door, holding her favorite teddy bear. Everything's fine, sweetie. Go and play. Mummy's just busy right now. But I want to play with you. Give me 5 minutes. I looked at the diary on the floor. The tiny figure of my daughter lingered for a moment and then shut the door. Dumi is a homosexual. Ngochani. If it wasn't written in his hand and before my eyes, I would have denied it. I could have not foreseen this. He spoke like a normal man, wore clothes like a normal man, and even walked like a normal man. Everything about him was masculine. Didn't homosexuals walk with handbags and speak with squeaky voices? I had to find out more. I scrunched my nose when I picked up the diary as if it smelt of something putrid. The page was open where I'd left it. What happened next, right under my nose, astonished me. The day I came home and found him and Mr. M at my house was the day that they had consummated their unnatural passions in the bed that I had shared with Doomy. I rubbed my body, feeling dirty and needing a long bath. Which one of them was the man and which was the woman anyway? The journal did not shed any light on this. As far as I knew, Doomy had been raised in a good Christian family if Catholics are Christians. And here he was turning my house into his own Sodom and Gomorrah. It seems the Canadian fellow Colin was a pervert as well. The authorities should have arrested him and locked him up forever. For as long as I can remember, there have been rumors of white tourists coming into the country and corrupting the youth, but I thought they preyed on the street children and beggars. I could gather from the journal that in fact there seemed to be an underground scene right beneath our noses where these depraves congregate. It was that gals movement that set up the secret safe houses all across the city to encourage this sort of satanic behavior. Surely not Doomy. I felt numb. The passages that were by far the sickest were the ones where he declared his love for Mr. M, as if such a thing were ever possible. He used passionate terms like the love of my life, which only men and women should use. I reached for my Bible to give me strength as I went through the document leaf by leaf. They'd met many times, going off to secret locations where they'd pretended to be related. No one batted an eyelid if two men rented a hotel room. They would just think of them as relatives and leave it at that. I wondered who else knew about this. The journal was at pains to hide the names of other people using only initials. I wondered why Doomy had done this when Colin and Mr. M were named, and anyone who wanted to target them or blackmail them. Mummy, I want to play, Chiwanyuso called from the other side of the door. I'm still busy. Go play with Cece Made. My daughter had been the product of a union between a man and a woman. What could a man and a man ever hope to produce in a million years? Even the president had called them worse than pigs. I might have disagreed with a lot of what he has done to the country, but I had to agree with him there. Even now, I imagine Mr. M with his silly mustache fondling the man who was my fiancé. Okay, I'm coming, I said at last, as Chiwanyuso kept calling at the door. I could not sleep that night because of what I knew. I spent the whole Saturday trying to recover from the blow. In my mind, Philip the rapist was better than Doomy the homo. I drank cup after cup of tea as if it could wash me clean of what I knew. I had a day before the pervert came back into my house. Many scenarios played in my head. I would call his parents over. When he arrived, we would all be there to confront him. The thought that I had fallen for him made me feel like a person who had been duped of their life savings by a conman. Even that would be better than this. What would I tell my parents when they asked about him? The whole world would have a laugh at my expense. She was so bad that she drove him into the arms of a man. Crude jokes like that would be made behind my back. If it was another woman, I would fight to save my relationship, but another man? There's no response to that. It is the sort of thing that is so far outside of nature, it could never happen. Even animals have sense enough to tell which one is female and which one is not. I opened my window to let the stale air out. There was a blast of cool air rushing in as if to cleanse my house. It was sweet and refreshing. If I hadn't a daughter to look after that day, I should have ended my life. The shame of it all was enough to kill me. I couldn't sleep a wink again that night. Sunday came and I rushed to church. I was the first one in the cinema and waited. Pastor Mavumba came in and was surprised to see me there. My daughter in Christ, what is troubling you that you should be here so early? The pastor spoke as if the Holy Spirit was telling him about my troubles. Everything is just fine, I lied. I could not get myself to seek his counsel on such delicate matter. What's your name again? I often see you in the congregation, but you always leave before the end. Vimbai. Well then, Vimbai, come down here and help me to arrange these newsletters. That day I did not hear a single thing of the service. The singing and the prayers all whizzed past me. My mind was with someone else. The seat next to me was empty. That was where Doomy should have been if he had come with me. That night I helped Chiwanyuso with her homework. She had been assigned to read a few pages in her reading book, which she did, placing a finger underneath one word and pronouncing it slowly. I found it a painful exercise and wondered how teachers were patient enough to endure it on their salaries. That's it, we're finished now. 2 more pages, Mommy. No, your teacher said you should read up to page 10, but Uncle Doomy always lets me read extra. It's time for you to go to bed. My day, come and take her to bed. She had to be dragged kicking and screaming because she did not want to go. Raising her would only get more difficult the older she grew. I sent my day off to bed early as well and told her to leave the dishes until the morning. I did not want anyone to be there when Doomy came in. The lights were switched off, and I sat in the dark sofa. I sat in the dark on the sofa nearest the door. The ticking clock made the only audible sound in the room. I counted every second until I heard the sound of the key in the door. It creaked open, and his dark figure came in and locked it. He walked across the room to the corridor, and that's when I called him. Christ, you startled me. He switched on the light. What are you doing in the dark? I did not give him an answer. I just glared at him, hating his handsome face the longer I stared. What's up, Mbai? Because this is kind of freaky, he said with a chortle that I once found cute, but now thought the vilest possible sound a human being could ever make. He was studying my face, trying to read my mind. He put the satchel he was carrying on the ground and walked slowly towards me, one cautious step after the other. When he was just 2 steps away, I pulled out the journal from underneath the cushion. His eyes widened. He took a step back, slipped by me, opened the door so fast that I didn't even see him unlock it, and ran off into the dark night. I shall regret the next thing I did for as long as I live.